Good morning. This is my second day post-reset. Yesterday was Father's Day, so I didn't take the time to make a video because we were busy with family things. But I did want to kind of check in to have a final review of this whole process. And I actually took some time to jot a couple notes, so I have a cheat sheet here of the things that I've learned, because what I wanted to do is kind of, for myself, bring everything together. So I actually went through and I watched my video diaries that I've been keeping all along to make sure that I didn't, forget anything, any of my insights, because I had a lot of them and I was kind of concerned going forward that I was going to lose something. So I made sure to go through everything and I jotted down a list here. So I thought I would use this cheat sheet to kind of enumerate what I learned and how this was so helpful for me. So just so you know, going in, I had 3 major goals. The first one was to break my sugar habit, and if you've been watching any of my other videos, you know that that's a big deal for me. So that was my first goal. My second goal was to try to drop 5 pounds. I have dropped 7, so obviously I'm glad about that. And my third one was I wanted to find other ways to cope with the triggers I already knew I had for eating. So for me, it was mental fatigue and boredom. And not that I'm actually bored, because I do a lot of things. I'm a very busy person, but sometimes there's just downtime, or, sometimes I'm just in the kitchen and I'll eat because there's, I'm waiting for dinner to cook or something like that. And certainly mental fatigue is a big deal for me. I love my job, I love my clients, but when I have 4 and 5 clients, particularly in a row, it gets mentally exhausting. And I eat, to try to get my energy back up, and that's not a good thing. Obviously, I need to do something else. So those are my 3 main goals: the sugar thing, the losing a couple pounds, and challenging myself to find alternate coping strategies. So some of the lessons that I learned along the way. So first is that, it's good to spend time with good food. And that, I guess it never really occurred to me before, because I spent so much time over the past 3 weeks chopping and preparing and thinking about food. And I'm not used to doing that. And I realized how important it is, and that it's a good thing. And how, I've always known what you focus on becomes big in your life. Okay, so wherever your attention goes, that's what's going to get bigger in your scope of vision. So I focused on a lot of good foods and just the enjoyment of preparing it and learning about the different foods. I tried a lot of new foods. I went to different parts of the grocery store, of the produce section I've never been to, so that was pretty awesome. But just how good it was to spend time with good food, and how, unsatisfying it was to have quick fixes. What I thought was a quick fix really wasn't, and it was very unsatisfying. This process was very satisfying, and I think it's a healthy emotional connection to food. When you're working with your food intimately and you're thinking about it a lot and you're preparing it, and you're engaged with it a lot, it feels good. Let's see here. My big lesson. I don't have to eat something sweet, especially just because it's there. And as you know, sweets, that was one of my main goals, and that was the thing I struggled with certainly the most in the first couple of days. And I know it sounds probably weird to you, because I'm sure, everyone has their own issues, but I really sometimes felt like I had to have something sweet, especially after a meal, like this whole concept of dessert. And you know what? I don't have to have something sweet, especially just because I want it. I don't have to. That's, for me, was a big deal. I did have headaches along the way, and I was physically tired during the process, but that wasn't a catastrophe. And it wasn't that I had to eat something to make it go away. The physical fatigue even. I mean, that, historically that's what I would have done, is reach for more food to try to make the fatigue go away, that tiredness. And it never ever worked, but it just gives you your blood sugar a little lift, and so it gives you this illusion that you're energetic, when of course you're not. And actually, this was really interesting. I, of course, going in thought that giving up sugar was going to be the hardest part of this process, and it wasn't. The hardest part of this process for me was not eating mindlessly. By far, I was shocked. I mean, even well into the second week, I was wanting to just grab something just for the sake of doing it, not because I was hungry or needed the